In the last 10 years, there has been a steady increase in people taking their SUV or crossover off-road to see remote locations to camp and sightsee. This is all just so they have something interesting to post on their Instagram. I'm kidding. This activity is called overlanding, and its popularity has been growing rapidly, especially in the United States. Events such as Overland Expo in Arizona feature a ton of classes alongside an actual trade show with an off-roading focus. Just around 10 years ago, there were only around 900 attendees. Fast forward to 2019, there are over 22,000. For many car nerds, this isn't really breaking news, but a lot of people are loading up their cars, driving to a national park and dabbling in a little off-roading. There's a lot more to unpack here than you might expect. Where did this sudden popularity come from? What happens when social media makes nature super popular? And with more people suddenly interested in the outdoors, is that affecting our environment? A big thank you to Peddle for sponsoring this video. Originally, this ad was supposed to air with the 50th episode of Money Pit, but through a series of uncontrollable events, it did not. So we figured, well, it's a random sponsor, let's put it in another random episode, and here we are. Peddle. Yay! Peddle is a credit card company that wants you to succeed financially, and with a Peddle One card, it can help you do it responsibly. Your banking history is used in order to provide you with a cash score, an additional way to measure your credit worthiness, often paired with your Vantage score, to approve you for the card. If approved, Peddle's partner WebBank member FDIC issues the cards. Depending on your overall credit, you can get approved for a credit limit between $500 to $5,000, which can help keep your credit utilization low, which is important when building a healthy credit score. And I know some of you are watching thinking, Nolan, come on, just tell me about the variable APRs already. The Peddle One variable APRs range from 19.99% to 29.29%. It's got up to 10% cash back on select merchants, and Peddle provides access to a mobile app with amazing features. What more do you want? So to learn more about disclosures on pricing and today's APRs, and to start building your healthy credit history, go to peddle.com/donut to learn more. Now let's get back into it. It's important to clarify to people what overlanding really is. It commonly gets confused with rock crawling, where the primary goal is to conquer as much difficult terrain as possible. Many people might imagine a modified Jeep tackling some tough terrain. However, overlanding is really about exploration and less about conquering that terrain itself. Can the roads and trails be rough or technically challenging? Yes, but they are a means to an end, not the goal itself. A typical overlanding journey can last anywhere from a weekend to a few months, depending on your expedition. It's essentially an off-road vehicle outfitted for self-reliant long-distance travel. Nowadays, car camping is an activity that is commonly associated with overlanding. On short trips, all you might need is some basic camping equipment and a small amount of food to last a day or two. The long trips, however, can be extremely taxing if you're not properly prepared. Channels like Expedition Overlanding do a good job of documenting what extremely long trips that last weeks can be like. They've gone on several trips that can sometimes span across multiple countries. For those trips, they use some serious off-roaders with a lot of specialized equipment. But this shouldn't discourage you. In the words of overlanding YouTuber Ben Stinnett, the best vehicle for overlanding is the one you already have. Even crossovers that are two-wheel drive can participate in many places. Plus, you don't need to be a young, fit person to go overlanding. In fact, it can be a family adventure, allowing people of all ages, regardless of fitness level, to participate. This wide range of enthusiasts allows for overlanding to have its own market for products. And let me tell you, there's a lot of them. But before we get there, we need to know the why. Why is overlanding suddenly so popular now? It feels like the hobby just came out of nowhere, but if you've been paying attention to auto industry trends, this was inevitable. The first reason for overlanding's rise is obvious, and it's simply because more people are buying SUVs. According to a New York Times article from May of last year, SUVs made up over 47% of all car sales in the US, compared to just 22% from sedans. And by 2025, they estimate that the light truck market, which includes SUVs, trucks, and vans, will make up a staggering 78% of all sales. It's undeniable that SUVs are the most popular segment in the automotive industry, and you can see that trend from every automaker. For example, in 1999, BMW offered only one SUV. Now, BMW offers 7 different SUVs and crossovers, and that's not even including their M variants. We even talked about how Ford isn't going to make cars anymore on an episode of Wheelhouse from a few years ago. They're just going to focus on trucks and SUVs. This is a thing. As you can see, this trend isn't new. In fact, it's getting bigger. And not just with crossovers, but with traditional SUVs as well. The Toyota 4Runner has been around since the early 80s, but sales peaked in 2018 with 139,000 units sold. Compare that to just 46,000 units 8 years earlier. The 4Runner perfectly embodies what overlanders tend to look for: a great off-roader that is also very comfortable, reliable, and a spacious daily driver. This success is also being seen in the Jeep Wrangler, and even Ford is rejoining the fray by rebooting the Bronco and bringing it back into their lineup with 2 variants available, those being a traditional SUV and a smaller crossover. People are even going to the used market to snatch up old SUVs for overlanding. All this demand for SUVs has created a bigger pool of people that can get into the hobby. In the same way that muscle car owners of the 60s and 70s took their cars to the drag strip, and how people with sports cars might take them to the track, SUV owners want to have fun with their daily driver too, and overlanding is probably the most fun you can have with an SUV. The next factor in overlanding's rising popularity is the internet. Wireless devices are everywhere now, in your pocket, in your car, on your lap, even on your dog. This huge improvement in wireless connectivity has made it easier and safer to travel to more desolate areas without having to worry about getting stuck and not being able to contact people. This has been especially true amidst the current pandemic. The sudden increase of people working from home, in combination with the fact that no one is allowed to pursue normal social activities like going to bars or movie theaters, have pushed many people to embrace the outdoors more. People have their SUVs, the majority of them have a wireless device, and they've been stuck at home and can't socialize because of this quarantine. Overlanding now looks like a pretty convenient way to get a much needed change of scenery without too much investment. Even I've been considering buying something I can camp out of. I'm very tired of my apartment. If you have a Crosstrek, let me know in the comments how much you like it. Overlanding was already gaining popularity, but now it has exploded during the COVID pandemic. Plus, having a bunch of people post their new adventure-based hobby on social media has also had an impact on overlanding's rising popularity. Anyone on social media has probably seen at least one photo of someone camping in a national park somewhere. It's like clockwork. It's not uncommon to find an overlanding post consisting of a SUV at a campsite with some mind-blowing scenery in the background on Instagram. Not gonna lie, those photos are pretty awesome. I'm not saying that people dump a bunch of money into their rigs and go on their trips to get a few pics for the gram, but shots like these definitely help spread the gospel and make the lifestyle something people aspire to achieve, and the cycle repeats all over again with someone else. However, if you look closely at some of those photos, you can see that those SUVs have been pretty heavily modified. And I mean heavily modified. Overlanding companies have benefited immensely from recent technological improvements, but the most popular advancement by far would be the rooftop tent. This accessory alone has been the star in the overlanding community. It takes little time to install in your car and almost no time to set it up when you reach your campsite. In addition to the quick install and setup, its location means that it can be set up in some places where a normal tent can't be because they require stakes to be placed on the ground. But that convenience is just the beginning. If you're willing to spend the extra money, the comfort and luxury becomes the rooftop tent's star feature. People, you can buy a rooftop tent with a memory foam mattress, LED interior lighting, plug-in points to charge your phone, and it also uses solar panels to charge them. It's nicer than my apartment. These things are simply amazing, and I haven't even talked about the ones that have awnings built into them. But rooftop tents aren't the only improvements that have been made. New refrigerators and kitchen setups have been developed and have been designed to fit into fancy metal drawer systems, and those drawers can be specifically designed for your make and model of your car. If you think you need more visibility at night, there are tons of fancy plug-and-play LED light bars with switches designed to fit into blank panels in your car. Even getting stuck isn't as much of a disaster as it used to be. There are portable compressors that can be installed in your engine bay if you need to air down or fill up your tires. If you need traction in slippery conditions, there are affordable and portable tracks that you can buy to help you get unstuck. The list goes on and on. All these accessories for overlanding make it easier for longtime enthusiasts, but simultaneously allow people uncomfortable with the harsher surroundings of a canyon or forest to feel at ease. People can even convert Ford Transit vans or Mercedes Sprinters into purpose-built overlanding rigs that can be a home away from home. Overlanding can be a cheap or very, very expensive hobby. There is an issue, however. I know everything I've talked up to this point has been pretty positive, and it should be, but remember at the beginning of the episode when I mentioned the difference in goals between rock crawling and overlanding? Well, that difference applies to the vehicle as well. Rock crawlers are specifically designed to take on tough off-road challenges, and that's it. Overlanders are equipped to handle some challenges, but there's a limit. That limit is very important because rock crawlers already have a high center of gravity. Now look at an overlanding rig, which has a tent and other camping gear usually attached to the roof. This makes an already high center of gravity vehicle even higher. Now, hopefully you can see why it's problematic when some amateur takes their overlanding rig on a tough trail. Experienced overlanders usually exercise extreme caution, and park employees definitely warn people of how dangerous some areas are for cars. But there will always be some guy out there who thinks he or she can handle it, which leads them to slipping off the trail and rolling their car and pretty much destroying it. And without park officials or law enforcement stopping inexperienced drivers or unauthorized vehicles from getting on these trails, people are going to continue to get into accidents. Remember how I was talking about how great the internet is a few minutes ago? Well, that turns out to be a double-edged sword. Social media has made popular landmarks super popular now, and as a result, national parks and forests have had to adjust for the sudden increase in traffic. You see, so many people are constantly trying to find that next viral Instagram pic, and because of this, they're forcing themselves off the pre-built walkways and trails in order to find new angles. This behavior causes a lot of damage to the surrounding plant life and actually takes a long time to recover from. Even worse is when people litter in these places, causing even more damage to the ecosystem. Food waste, for example, attracts wildlife and erodes their natural instincts to avoid humans. It can also take common items like plastic bags and aluminum cans up to 100 years to decompose. Also, think about how much longer it takes for a crashed Jeep to decompose on the side of a hill if it doesn't get recovered. And it gets even weirder than that. Remember last year with the whole monolith nonsense out in Utah? Well, according to the Bureau of Land Management, visitors, quote, parked on vegetation and left behind human waste, ew, as well as parked their cars off a dirt road in some sagebrush. The red landscape was scarred by crisscrossing tire tracks and what could be a piece of toilet paper sticking out of the ground. Not cool. The monolith stayed there until a group of people took it upon themselves to go out there and remove it. People were not thinking clear enough about how their actions affected their surroundings when going outdoors. Littering is a big enough problem for our national parks and forests. They don't need more to deal with. Now, the problems I've just laid out are just from people walking around. Now imagine how much more damage occurs when an overlanding rig decides to go off the beaten path. The damage would go up exponentially. SUVs and trucks are permitted to drive through national forests and parks on designated trails designed to minimize the damage brought upon by travelers. The U.S. Department of Agriculture reported on an incident at the Okanogan-Wenatchee National Forest at Buck Lake Campground, where a meadow near the campground was torn up by vehicles. Where there was green grass, there are now mud pits and tire tracks. That kind of damage is basically permanent due to how much heavier and more powerful off-road vehicles are compared to a group of people walking around. The irony of people damaging nature while on a trip to appreciate nature sounds like a bad joke, but instead is an unfortunate reality. However, the overlanding community has not been completely unaware of careless people's actions. In fact, people have made attempts to help limit it. Yes, there are people who go out into parklands and damage them carelessly, but there are just as many people in overlanding that are environmentally conscious and are active in trying to get others to be as well. With some basic research online, you'll find a bunch of online articles informing people on how to limit their environmental impacts and how to be more mindful when driving through parklands. These kinds of guides do a great job of not only limiting the damage caused to parklands, but also teach people useful tips on how to be a more skilled and environmentally friendly driver. I will link some down in the description if you're interested. The rise of overlanding has been a sudden yet welcome addition to many people's lives. It's wonderful that people are willingly taking their SUV with a couple of off-road accessories and going out and exploring remote locations in their free time. I truly love that. However, nobody wants people to get hurt, and people should be honest with themselves about what their limits are when off-roading over difficult terrain. Also, pick up your trash and stay on the designated paths. It's not that hard. The national parks and forests don't put those trails and rules in place just because they're lazy. They're trying to protect the local ecosystems. So get out there, enjoy nature, take pictures of yourself with your rig, post them up. I think that's awesome, but make sure to do so respectively. Thanks for watching this episode. I was not kidding about the Crosstrek. I've been looking at them. Let me know in the comments if you like yours or if there's a better vehicle. Check out Donut on all social media at Donut Media. We post behind the scenes stuff sometimes. Follow me at Nolan J. Sykes as well. Be kind, take care of each other. See you next time.